Hello everyone, welcome to our Kubernetes tutorial for beginners. In this tutorial, we will walk you through the fundamentals of Kubernetes and cover the most frequent commands you will use when working with Kubernetes cluster. Kubernetes is an open source platform for automating deployment, scaling, and managing containerized applications. It provides a powerful framework for managing containers across clusters of machines. Let's start with basics and learn how to install the Kubernetes. To install Kubernetes, we will need to set up Docker, kubectl, and minikube. Docker is a containerization platform. Kubectl is a command line tool for Kubernetes to interact with the clusters, and minikube allows you to run Kubernetes clusters locally. Let's install them step by step. For the Docker installation, we already made a video to learn how to install and what's the most useful commands for the Docker. Now, to install the kubectl as the primary tool for interacting with the Kubernetes cluster, we will move on the official website of the Kubernetes and follow the instructions in this page. Okay, I found the installation with the package management. I will copy the commands and paste it on my terminal. Okay, we will follow the instructions in here. Okay, we will follow the instructions here. And the next step, we need to download the public signing key. Oops. Okay, it looks like everything is fine and the installation is completed. We will check this by running kubectl cluster info. Yeah, you cannot connect to any cluster because we already have not installed and running any cluster locally. In the next step, we will install the minikube, which enables you to run Kubernetes cluster locally. So for the installation as well, we follow the instruction on the official website. So here's how to install the minikube. All right, the installation is done. We now can run a cluster locally by running the minikube start. All right, after a few minutes, the minikube starts the clusters locally. And now if we run the kubectl cluster info, we can see the control panel is running in this IP port and showing that the cluster is locally running. Perfect. So now Kubernetes installed. Let's explore the most common tasks that you will perform using the kubectl commands. These are the fundamental commands you should know if you're working with the platform. Think of them as your daily training exercises to become a pro. Okay, let's start by understanding the basic information about our Kubernetes cluster by running kubectl cluster info. This command provides essential details about the Kubernetes cluster, including the master's API server URL and also the Kubernetes dashboard URL. Now let's deploy a sample application using a deployment resource. Using the kubectl create deployment and nginx deployment as an example and image nginx latest. By running this command, creates a deployment named Nginx deployment with the latest version of the Nginx image from the Docker Hub. Now we created our first deployment as an example, the Nginx in our Kubernetes cluster. So to retrieve the resource information, for example, retrieve information about deployments, pods, services, or nodes in the cluster, we can simply run kubectl get deployments. Or instead of deployments, we can get the pods or services or nodes. But now we want to see the deployments. We have two deployments. One is the Nginx that I just created 1 minute ago, and the other one is another Nginx deployment that I just deployed around 5 minutes ago. So we have two deployments here. We can add another deployments to our cluster. So this gives a quick overview of the current cluster's state and the state of the resources. We can discover more information about the deployments by running kubectl describe deployment and the name of the deployment. Here you are. This will provide information such as the deployment status, the labels, annotations, and the container specifications, and number of the replicas, and any other informations here, and also the image used in more detail by running the kubectl describe deployment and the name of the deployment. There is another command to delete the deployments already created. For did that purpose, you can run kubectl delete deployment and the name of the deployment. This command removes the deployment named Nginx deployment along with all associated pods. If we get the kubectl get deployment, we can see there is only one deployment. You can edit the deployment configuration using these following commands: kubectl edit deployment and the name of the deployment. We already have deleted all the deployments. So first we create and then edit another deployments. To create the deployments, we are on this, and by running this edit the deployments, it's open a text editor that enables you to make interactive modifications with the deployments. When you there is all information. You can change the images, the Docker images used for these deployments, and all other information. When you save this text, it's automatically there is no change. If we may change by saving this and closing the editor, Kubernetes detects the changes and initiates an update process for the deployment. All right, we move to the next command. If we want to apply all this configuration from a YAML file to the Kubernetes cluster, we can run the kubectl apply from a file and enter the file name .yaml here and then enter. That's it. This will apply all the information specified in the YAML file. So let's say you have a YAML file named nginx deployment .yaml, which contains the deployment configuration for an Nginx web server. The contents of this file might look something like this. This YAML defines a Kubernetes deployment name, the Nginx deployment, that manages 3 replicas of an Nginx container. Each replica exposed to a port 80 for serving HTTP traffic. This is a simple example of YAML file for running a deployment from a YAML file. Yeah, and then I save this file. And then again, by running this. All right, we have a deployment, Nginx deployment with 3 replicas available in our Kubernetes cluster so far. Next command is how to scale a deployment. To scale the number of replicas of deployments, we can run the kubectl scale deployment and the name of the deployment and the number of replicas. We can increase or decrease the number of the replicas inside the Kubernetes cluster. So it's been easily scaled up. And then by running the kubectl get deployment, we can see that it's changed to 4 available replicas. So this allows horizontal scaling of any application that you have running on the Kubernetes cluster. Another command is updating the container images. Update the container image of deployment to a new version or any specific version. So for that purpose, we can run kubectl set image deployment nginx deployment nginx equal nginx and a specific version of that. Okay. Yeah, okay, there were some typos there. I fixed them, and now the deployment images are easily updated to a new version of the Nginx. You can run kubectl describe the deployment. We can see the image of the Nginx is used. We just updated the image, and it's been updated through the deployment of Kubernetes in Kubernetes cluster. So another command to in Kubernetes cluster is roll back to the most recent deployment update to a previous version by running the kubectl roll out undo deployment nginx deployment. It will roll back to the last changes that have already done over this particular deployment. If we get run the kubectl describe deployment, we can see that image has changed to the latest version of the Nginx. So this is the previous state, and it's been undo the recent change or updates. All right, so far we have Kubernetes deployments with 4 replicas. Get deployment, yeah, Nginx deployment, and if we run the kubectl get pods, we can see there is a 4 pods inside the Nginx deployment that are running. Another command is exposing a deployment to as a service accessible from outside the cluster. We can expose the port by running the kubectl expose deployment nginx deployment and specify the port, which is 80, and assign the type of load balancer. There is a typo. Okay, the service is exposed and is accessible via port 80 with a load balancer type. Yeah, we can see that the port 80 is, I think, yeah, we specify on the YAML file already what ports is being exposed to the external usage. And anyway, by this command, you can furthermore specify the exposed port. Another command is view the logs of a pod in real time. If we get the pods and specifying kubectl logs f and the pod name, for example, this particular pod, this command will monitor the output of the Nginx pod continuously by putting -f option there. So this is a very helpful command for troubleshooting and debugging the pods in real applications. The final command that I really love that is executing the commands in a pod. There are 4 pods available running on the Kubernetes cluster, and if we run kubectl exec it and the pod with a pod name and the bash command that we want. Here we are now inside the pod, inside the Docker container. And this is very helpful for troubleshooting, for debugging a running container in a pod in a deployment service. Yeah, the container is running an Nginx, which is on a Debian version 12 now. This is an interactive shell in the Nginx pod that allows to execute commands within the container. We just completed the most frequent commands used that as a building blocks for managing Kubernetes cluster and applications. I hope you now feel confident in using Kubernetes to deploy and manage containerized applications, and practice with them to gain hands-on experiences and master Kubernetes. Happy Kuberneting!